opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, municipality, individual, or anyone or anything.
He's a surgeon. He's a 100-ton boat captain. He's a lieutenant on Seaside Heights Beach Patrol in New Jersey. He's a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. He's Dr. Michael Kachmar. Need answers to your medical questions? We have them. Listen in to hear latest on medical topics related to all that and more.
For the intro again.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Kachmar. Welcome to Lifeguarding with Dr. Michael Kachmar and the Lifeguards off-duty crew that we have here today. And first of all, today, what's today's date? Today is the
year of our Lord,
September 6th, the year of our Lord, 2022. We have Tyler. Tyler's got his.
Do you want to run a half marathon with us?
No, I don't know.
Well, we are.
No, well,
October 2nd, Ocean City.
Good. Not me.
Our goal is just to finish. We're not racing it.
No, not me. And we have Sean.
Our goal is to finish until the 12th mile, and then we're gonna.
Do you think? No, realistically, because you're a lifelong athlete. You're very fit for your age.
I've done 10 mans.
Do you think your body could handle it, like training for a half marathon?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Oh man,
no more. I could, but I'd probably hurt myself. I mean, but I tell you, somebody just told me to go do a Tin Man. Who the hell just told me that? It's a half marathon.
Troy.
That's right, Troy. Half Ironman.
Yeah, we used to call him Tin Man. So I did.
I think he just did that this weekend.
No.
It's either this weekend or next.
Next weekend.
What is a triathlon? It's a half marathon. How long is the swim?
No. A regular Ironman.
Oh, he's doing an Ironman.
No, listen to me. You're asking me two different questions. An Ironman, a full Ironman, is a marathon, a full marathon.
Okay.
Run. Whatever, it's 22 miles. Yeah, it's I think 140-mile bike. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I forget what the swim is.
I think the swim's about 2.5 miles.
Right. So the one I did in Maryland was I think it was a 1.5-mile swim, 1.2-mile swim, a 52-mile bike, and I think it was a 14-mile run.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a triathlon.
They call it a half marathon. I mean, excuse me, a half triathlon. It's a triathlon.
Yeah.
Marathon, yeah. And part of the run is, half of a marathon.
Troy's been training like a savage for his race.
Yeah, I did that, and I did tons of sprint triathlons, but I also did a lot of lifeguard, Ironman, and row races. But anyway, what's the question? Why are you asking me that?
We're running the half marathon with Jesse, and how do you feel about like a 2:30 guy running a half marathon? You think he's gonna be okay?
No, listen, half marathon's no big deal. I used to run, Joe and I, when we were training, we do 10-mile run all the time. Yeah, but so it's a 14
You
mile.
guys, your heaviest might have weighed 200.
Yeah.
No way Catch ever weighed 200.
Yeah, I'm talking about Joe.
No.
But like Jesse might weigh like 230. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a problem.
As long as you train.
No, as long as you train. See, here's the thing: you have to train, and like the guys who break the bricks with their hand and they go, the karate guys.
Oh yeah.
And they crack the bricks. If you do that right now, even though if you have the strength, you'll break your bones. What happens is they over time they keep doing it gradually more and more, and their bones get stronger and stronger and stronger. It's not that they're so strong that they could break the brick, but
do you think I could run a half marathon without training if I slapped on a pair of those shore shoes?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. No, but you have to train. And no, for me.
Okay. So what are some of as a foot doctor? What are some of the common injuries you've seen when you get in someone who trains like that for marathons and
they get
super endurance
stress fractures. Stress fractures is the biggest thing. I had one girl. She was a high level athlete, and she was getting heel pain. She went to one doctor. He shot her up with a steroid. Thought it was plantar fasciitis, heel spur. I saw her. I told her back off. She didn't, and she was doing a marathon. And at the end, like the last mile, her heel just cracked. Oh. And she had to have it pinned.
I can't imagine how painful that.
Yeah.
How do you deal with something like that?
Listen. A lot of times when you have injuries, you don't feel it anymore. When I did my training at Temple Sports Medicine Center, and there's a famous picture that they had up there. I don't know if they even have it anymore. I don't even know if it's there. And it was this football player on the field. He just sustained a compound fracture. In other words, he broke his tibia, and it was like popping through the skin. Ugh. But he's just sitting there just like nothing. You go into this post-trauma shock. You don't even feel it.
I've broken.
So sometimes
I've
it's not
broken
that
this
painful.
hand. I broke this wrist.
Yeah.
And a bone in my hand.
Yeah.
The first one was playing soccer.
Yeah.
I was playing at Fort Dix in a Thanksgiving tournament, and like at the beginning of the season, the fields there are like beautiful, but by Thanksgiving they're completely torn to shit. And on top of that, it was like 40 degrees outside, so the ground was rock hard, and I got tackled, and my hand just smacked on the ground like that, and I got up and my finger was like over here, but I finished out the rest of the game. Like, I didn't feel a thing.
No.
And then, but the second that final whistle blew, like, I looked at my coach and I turned green. I was like, I got to get out of here. Like,
they say it's adrenaline and whatever you want to talk about. But getting back to the training, I mean, a lot of people, I got people who train a little bit and they do a triathlon. I mean, excuse me, a marathon. I had one buddy, he walked, run, they take a break. Yeah. They do all kinds of stuff. So, but I did serious. One of the things that I used to do a lot of, it was really good. It was up in Long Branch, before Long Branch, they built all of those hotels. I mean, the bar and restaurant up there. It used to be a boardwalk, and they had a thing called the Sprint Triathlon, and it was out of Sandy Hook. It was at a Seven Presidents Park, which is just below Sandy Hook. So Seven Presidents Park in New Jersey. And you would do about a 500-yard swim, maybe a little bit longer, come out of the water. It was a 14-mile bike up to Sandy Hook, and then come back down, and then a 4-mile run. And that was really good.
Oh, that sounds like casual, like, and fun, honestly.
Yeah.
That's not impossible.
500-yard swim? That's...
Well, for us, it was great. So Joe and I, we did a lot of times because we would try to win it. And you got to remember, I was a 6:30 in the water, and I could do a 6:30 running, for 4 miles, not forever. I'd slip back to like 7s. But here's what happened. Joe and I, we get there, and we would like be 3rd, 4th, 5th out of the water. That's how, back in the day, I mean, we flew. And it was only 500 yards. Get out, and we would hold our own on the bike. Maybe one guy would pass us, 2 guys. Maybe we'd pass, we would fight each other. So we were right in that pack, top 10, So I'd get to the run, and we're all right there, right there. And I'd start running. And again, it's 4 miles. I'd hit the 2-mile mark, and I swear to God, I start running back, and I'm doing 6:30s. And then 1 guy, 2 guys, 3 guys. These guys would blow by me, and it was so frustrating because you think about it. If you're a 5-minute miler, all right, I'm doing 6:30s, which is a minute and a half. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could basically spend 6 minutes lose 6 minutes on the bike, or 5 minutes on the bike and the swim, and still kick my ass. It was a runner's race. That's my point. So it was very frustrating.
I've always wanted to do like a lifeguard themed triathlon kind of thing, where it's like a swim, a run, and then like a longboard. Or the bike would have to be on like a beach cruiser or something.
No, you should do the Ironman. Like you have the regionals and you do the USLA.
No, but I'm saying like our own thing.
Like a made up thing.
Like a made up, like fun. So
but
it
you
could be like teams, like
right.
You have a beach cruiser,
yeah, beach cruiser,
a longboard, and and then there's like a swim and a run, and you can like tow the longboard if you want on the beach cruiser.
Yeah, no, you should do that. You should do, but like I said, I did multiple times in the regionals and nationals, like the Ironman. That's tough. That's a row, swim, and paddle, and they mix up the events, the order of the events. And I can tell you that was really tough. But anyway, so we have Sean. Sean, you want to say hello?
Hey, everybody.
So thank you for guys for being here. And so what do we want to talk about? We have a couple things. Let's go to the whiteboard. So,
all right. So today
what do you want
have
to talk about?
A tidal wave that could possibly take your junk.
Wow.
Feet eating sharks. Whoa. And then you got a couple stories about
the injuries,
occurrences at the beach this Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, we had 2 that were pretty interesting. So I have no idea what the wave that could take your junk out, but what is that all about?
So do you know what a tidal bore is?
A tidal board?
Tidal bore.
B-O-R-E.
No, I don't think
so I'm it's. I've actually talked about it when I brought up that Weird Waves show. brought it up a couple times, but basically what it is, it's a tidal swell that comes in in certain situations where a river mouth meets the open ocean.
Okay.
But there's very specific requirements. Like the river mouth needs to be very shallow and generally wide.
Well, it could be like an inlet too. An inlet.
Yeah, but it has to be shallow enough for it to turn into a wave. So basically, what happens is the tide starts pushing into the river and actually reverses the flow. And creates like a surfable wave.
Oh yeah, you got that right. You got that in Barnegat Inlet. It shoals out there. A lot of places like that. But go ahead.
There's about 110 of these tidal bores in the world. But I was like looking today, and I found this one in the Amazon.
Yeah, Cash. These aren't like little jetty waves. Like these go on forever. Like during the whole.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. They propagate really. Yeah, it's more than just.
So what's interesting about these is you can ride them for the record on this one in the Amazon that we're going to talk about is like 7.5 miles.
Yeah, listen,
that's crazy.
Just make sure you mute it, by the way.
Yeah, we know.
No, I know. They're already muted.
Oh, good. Okay.
We were here for like an hour before you got here.
Yeah, just so people know, you get in trouble. You play a video and there's any music whatsoever.
They get rid of it.
They have, they have like the Mar-a-Lago. We'll have FBI raid here.
Mar-a-Lago.
They come in here like
it's hurricane season.
Yeah. So this, you're gonna show one? Yeah.
So this one that we're looking at right here, I just got some pictures, but like look at this barrel. Oh, I'm gonna screen share this. Hold on.
Yeah, you can see that's a river. Look how dirty the water is. Ugh.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
It's pretty. So you got these are all Amazon. Let's see.
Have you guys seen those?
I had a screen share set up. I don't know what happened.
Have you guys seen those Amazon dolphins?
The pink ones?
Yeah, the ugly. Like they're like ugly though.
Yeah, they are. They're pretty weird looking.
So you can't get. Can we get? Is that
this barrel right here? It's like, look at that. Imagine surfing that.
Yeah.
So this is from the This is a hard word to pronounce. The Pororoca, which is this. It's the bore wave that enters the Amazon, and it actually like once it goes in, because the Amazon like spreads out so much, it goes up a whole bunch of the different what are they called, tributaries?
Yeah.
So you can surf it in like a lot of different spots, which is really cool. But the word Pororoca comes from the indigenous Tupi word, also Pororoca, which means great roar. So the reason they call it that is because you can hear this wave coming from like 30 miles away, or for 30 minutes before it actually comes.
Right.
And they actually even say that you can, the waves are rideable 100 miles offshore.
Wow. Can you switch it where you're the small and they're the big? You know what I'm saying? See how it is? You know how to do that or no?
I did.
Okay. Just thought you'd have to hit. Yeah.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
Right. So it goes that far inland. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So you, actually, and the first, I just picked this up in my notes. I completely forgot. But the first person to record this one in Amazonia that we're talking about was Jacques Cousteau.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
The guy.
Yeah, he has a film called The Journey of a Thousand Rivers. I'm sure he killed a lot of animal life.
I bet he did
while filming that.
One of my buddies goes to the he kite surfs or wind surfs, and he goes to the Columbia River, and evidently, the tide goes one way, the wind goes the other way, and I don't know if they're riding waves. They are riding waves, but I don't know if it's the same thing in the Columbia River. But yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, so I'm reading an article about this, and this guy Matt Warshaw, yeah, and he's the author of the Encyclopedia of Surfing, was talking about the dangers associated with surfing this wave. And
why? What's kind of dangerous?
So he's for one, these tidal bores, they're very destructive to the nature or on the riverbanks.
Oh, okay.
So what happens? It's this aggressive flow of water. We're looking at like 10-foot waves here, and what happens? You have all types of sediment getting churned up. That's why it's like the color of chocolate milk. You have giant tree trunks getting swirled around on the riverbanks. And on top of that, you have all the stuff that lives in the river, alligators, piranhas. And he talks about this tiny spindly fish that if you go into the river and you pee, it will swim up your urethra, and its fins have so many tiny little spikes that you can't get it out, and sometimes the only solution is amputation.
Wow.
So it's absolutely
don't pee in the
it's
water.
absolutely necessary that you wear a wetsuit while you're surfing this wave. So, but like the other, there's the alligators and the anacondas. They actually
Crocodiles.
follow the flow of this wave, knowing that there's going to be a lot of stuff to snatch up and eat.
Yeah, like surfers.
Yeah, I'm sure they've gotten one or two.
For sure.
But yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different ones around the world that are really famous. One in the Trent River in England. They all have kind of like interesting names.
Is there
too.
anything in the United States other than
Yeah, there's one, the Cook Inlet in the U.S. actually, and
Where's that?
Where's the
Cook
Cook Inlet?
Alaska.
So you definitely need a wetsuit.
In the same vein of the alligators and the anaconda following the wave in the Amazon, you have bears and eagles wading into the water like hours after the wave has passed to get all the fish that have been, banged against rocks and killed over this.
So what do they call it? A bore wave?
Tidal bore.
How do you spell that?
Tidal, obviously. BORE. Bore.
Bore.
Yeah.
And what does that mean, bore? Like
What's
where's that word come from?
I don't know. I didn't look up the etymology.
Bore.
But
All right.
so
Well,
some other examples of this are the Trent River in England. They call it A gear, which is.
But if you're gonna go surfing in there, you better watch your junk.
Well, that's
where you
the
come
one
from.
that's the one in the Amazon. But they're all kind of dangerous in their own way. Like all of them seem like the one cool common thing though is
It's probably a lot of debris, so you have to be careful.
every single one gets surfed on.
Yeah.
Like people are always just trying to charge waves, no matter what the dangers are.
We should try to get some video. You don't have a video, huh? We could let it roll.
I have a video I'm gonna pull up.
All right.
But yeah, the one in England is called A gear. It's named after the god of the sea in Norse mythology. He's rumored to be feared by sailors who made sacrifices to him. Legend has it also that Aegir's beer was absolutely top, and all the gods from Asgard wanted to come hang out with him and drink his wicked brew. They have one in Malaysia called Binak. There's an entire festival dedicated to it. It lasts for like 5 days.
Right.
Masquerade in France. This one's pretty interesting. It's probably the most deadly one of these tidal bores. 112 ships were lost between 1789 and 1828 in that river due to the tidal bore, Masquerade, and another 105 over the next 21 years.
What's the biggest tidal bore?
The biggest tidal bore
I knew you'd have it.
is the Silver Dragon.
The Chinese?
Yeah.
Kachmar,
So I have a video of the Silver Dragon.
The
wave.
Chinese are beating us.
Yeah, let me see it.
And everything.
I want to see it. He keeps on going. I want to see it. I want to check it out.
Oh, Kachmar's really interested.
There we go.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah,
Cash,
so
the
it's the biggest
Chinese
one in the
got a-
world.
Can you
They got a
make it?
bigger
Can
one
you
than
make it
us.
bigger so people? can see it?
We got it. So what's interesting about the Silver Dragon is that, oh Jesus, what have I done? I don't know how to do this right now, Catch. People are just gonna have to deal. You can see it full screen. Red Bull has a surfing event there every year, and it's been documented as far back as 3,000 years.
The Silver Dragon?
Yeah, so here's a video of someone surfing it right here.
I've
Catch.
definitely seen videos of this.
That's good. You can see it down on the bottom.
Make it full screen too. It'll be huge on the little screen.
So
There
like,
you
look
go,
at this
perfect.
lady just absolutely, and she's on a longboard, which is dope. But they're in like I think it's the Hangzhou River. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
That's probably like really gross water. No?
for sure. All that smog.
Whoa! Look at that boat going through.
Yeah.
it.
Wow.
That's a junk. That's what you mean by mess your junk up. Those ships are called junks.
Yeah.
It's coming
Or
full
junk.
circle.
It's just, but like,
That's a sick wave.
it's just, yeah, like just looking at the shape of these tidal
They're
bore waves.
so good.
So this is not.
They
So this
are
get,
freaking perfect.
So this
They're
is-
like
but this is
perfect little barrels.
I
But
think
thi-
it's just the water level's so much higher where the wave is that it's just like the tide raising
the
in
back
the river.
of it's a lot hard, and also I think it's got to do a lot with the fact that I'm pretty sure most of these situations, the tide is coming in against the current, so I feel like that current might be acting in the same way as like an offshore wind, Right.
So just pushing it up.
It's just standing the wave
yeah,
up.
and like this is the
Right.
line.
If you look at these, first of all, it's not the ocean. This is in
a river.
But if you look, when you talk about wave action, where they have these,
this is unbelievable. Look
where
at
they
this
have,
guy.
you ever hear the what do you call it? Out in the middle of the ocean, rogue wave. We used to call them rogue
sneaker
waves.
waves.
Right. So a rogue wave is usually what happens is when current goes against the wind. You see that in the Gulf Stream. So whenever there's a strong current, like the Gulf Stream goes from south to north, maybe 2-3 knots. This is pretty fast. And then when you get a wind going the other way, opposite way, going from the northeast, it lifts the waves up, and it's pretty dangerous. Oh yeah, look at the debris going over there. So
We're supposed to get some swell tomorrow.
yeah, so that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat stuff. I mean, it's and where is this at? Oh, this is Surfing Silver.
This is
So
China.
this is Silver Dragon. This is the largest tidal bore in the world.
It's bigger than America's.
So I mean, yeah, these things are pretty incredible.
Whoa.
I would love to ride the one in England that I've talked about on previous shows. I think the record on that one is like 9
What is
kilometers.
she? You know, it's interesting. She looks like she has some kind. I mean, I don't know.
She's a really long leash. It looks like.
No, but it looks like she got a vest on or something. I mean,
Yeah, probably.
she's got something underneath that.
Maybe she's pregnant.
Maybe,
Little
but
gut?
but you know, some people
fat
wear
shaming.
some people wear a life preserver. It inflates if they get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. She might have underneath the shirt.
But I mean, it's just like in theory, these waves are a surfer's dream. You know, it's just the endless wave.
yeah, There's
But
where's waves like this?
You only get one chance to paddle for it.
Oh, okay.
And if you miss it,
You're done.
You're beat. You can, in most places where this happens, you can
ski?
surf it kind of twice a day. You really shouldn't do it without a jet ski, especially on this in this one in the Amazon that we were talking about because of
right.
all the dangers
Well,
associated with it.
yeah.
But
So you got that one wave machine in out west in the United States that old
Kelly
surfer.
Slater's Surf Ranch.
Right. So you got that, and I hear that's pretty neat.
Did you know they're building one in
Yeah,
Jackson?
they're building one at Six Flags.
Oh wow. And then the other thing is there's places that, if you watch the movie The Endless Summer. Have you guys ever watched that movie? The Endless
Oh,
Summer?
God, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I figured.
That
Well,
movie
St.
is
Francis.
awesome.
St. Francis. They have the same kind of thing. South Africa. The waves are just going forever and ever and ever. It's the longest ride you could get. The only thing you have to worry about is sharks there. All right, well that's pretty interesting. I like that. That was really good.
Tidal bore.
Tidal bore. So we're gonna we have to keep an eye out for that. And so what's our next? So what is this? Feet
Feet
shark?
sharks.
Feet
Feet
shark.
sharks. There's thousands of them at one time come up and bite people in California right now.
So it's this like little species of shrimp like thing that lives in the shallow water in the Pacific, like
Yeah.
normally in tidal pools.
They're crustaceans. They're not actually sharks, but the name is what they're going with, I guess.
Well, it's their behavior.
They're
Yeah, they
probably
bite
They're
like
like
little
kind of shark. They come up and bite you. So what are they? They come up and bite your
little teeny
toes.
tiny like piranhas almost. You know,
Nematodes.
What's a nematode?
Well, isn't there? What do they do when they put people? They take their feet and they put them in this bucket and they have
eels?
fish. Fish eat their dead skin.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
that's like some kind of like salon special.
Yeah. There's some like little fish. They sit there and just.
exfoliation.
Yeah. So let's.
Do you offer that in your office?
No, don't do any of that shit. So here, beachgoers
All right,
in Southern California are being targeted by swarms of tiny, aggressive sea bugs who have an appetite for human feet. We used to have sea bugs in our beaches here. I haven't seen them for a while. Nicknamed mini sharks, have been identified as water line isopods, crustacean species that grows to be around 0.3 inch, or 0.8 centimeters. So centimeter is about the length of your thumbnail. So that's pretty big, actually.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if you have some crusty feet,
Yeah, so go down a little bit.
These things
Does it
might
show a
be
picture of
helpful.
one of these things?
yeah, I have one pulled up on the next page over here.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
So these little
Oh,
guys.
yeah. We've had them
Hey, look
here.
how small it is.
Yeah, we've had them here. They're a little bit different, but they look, I can see them. And you'd go swimming and then they'd be like in your bathing suit. They don't bite or anything. We used to call them
These
sea,
draw blood.
we used to call sea lice, but I don't think they ever, rarely they
They're in
draw
the
blood.
bay, right? Bay lice.
I don't
Isn't
know if
that why
they're-
they say don't bring your dog in the bay?
Yeah, but I don't think these things are around here. They might not
Nah,
be.
this is a California thing.
Right. Wow. Are they always been out there and just people are talking about this, or there's something new? They're an aggressive
This is
species.
Sean, did you find this on the Golden State Lifeguards Instagram page, or was that just
Yes.
some weird synchronicity?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay, cool.
So these are biting people out there.
They're
drawing
dealing
blood.
with it. They're dealing with this in California right now.
What do you do to? What do they do to? Like they say, wear water shoes.
The suggestion is. Do you want to say?
The suggestion in the article is like just stamper your feet until they go away.
Yeah, shuffle your feet really fast so they don't have time to latch on. But that's
wow.
But you're still not going to stop them from biting you.
So when they bite you, you got to pull them off, or
I think they just bite and get a little chunk out of you, and that probably fills them. Honestly, they're so small.
Oh, that's yeah, so they're actually eating you. So they're not drawing blood. They're just taking a bite.
No, they're drawing blood.
Like,
People have bled from them,
but they're not like sucking blood like a tick does.
No.
So these are akin to like green flies. They're just coming in and biting you and taking off.
Pinch and they're gone.
Yeah. There was a place actually down in South Jersey. They came up to do a tournament with Lavalette, and they have an emblem. It's green flies. It says embrace green flies. They have shirts and everything because they're so bad down there in South Jersey. Green flies are nasty, man.
Look at this.
Oh, yeah. That's a nasty looking. So these are plague of flesh-eating bugs are munching on people's feet in California.
Yeah.
I never heard of it. That's pretty neat.
So I think it's an isopod. I think that's what the article said. Let's see.
And it's something. No other.
Yeah, and it's an isopod.
You don't have any. And it's nothing you could do. I guess you could wear water shoes. Well, that's pretty wild. Oh, there's a bite.
Yeah, look at the bite.
Wow, that's a pretty aggressive bite.
Imagine thousands of those.
Swarms of time leaving beachgoers bleeding in U.S. Wow, I never heard of that. That's an interesting. And is there any? What's the treatment? Did they say what the treatment is? Like vinegar or just soap, just like a regular cut? So keep on going down.
Pee on it.
Pee on it. No, we don't. So let me see. Those attacked note the painful fade. So here, people attacked by the isopods describe the bite as being painful and surprising, noting how the bugs look a group of tiny piranhas have attacked their feet and ankles. Those attacked noted that the pain faded about 15 to 20 minutes. That's a long time.
What would you rather square off with? A school of like 50 piranhas or a great white shark?
Yeah, I'd take the piranhas.
You take the piranhas, Sean?
Yeah.
No way. I'd rather get bit once by the great white and die than be bitten for 2 minutes by piranhas.
Why would you take piranhas?
I think I could survive. I think I could beat them all.
What are you going to beat them off with an oar?
Yeah. No, but I mean, piranhas. First of all, they're not as like I said. They attack you, but I don't think that they eat you like a swarm like that. But these things.
So how do you survive? What's your plan? Going like you're jumping in a tank. You know what?
I think if you fight them off, I think and get out of the water, you probably have a lot more. One bite with a shark, you're going to die.
You're in a swimming pool and you have to last 15 minutes or die before the 15 minutes.
You're not going to survive that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would. If you ask me, if I had my choices, but a shark is going to,
I like the confidence.
One bite could kill you. So.
I knew a guy who, he was a teacher, but I'm not going to say anything. He had a tank in college where they had a piranha and they had a crawfish and they lived in harmony like all throughout college. But as the years go on and you get bored, and it's your 4th or 5th year depending, they figured out a way to get the piranha angry at the crawfish and made them fight. And I think the crawfish beat the single piranha, and crawfishes aren't that big.
Piranha's not that big either.
What's that shrimp that like punches?
Oh, I don't know.
Have you heard about
I know
that?
about that. Yeah. David
It can punch through a piece of glass or something.
No, I think it can punch right through a wetsuit for sure.
I tell you what's bad is the box jellyfish, and they're in Australia, and they're in the
mantis shrimp.
Yeah,
look up its punching power just off the cuff.
Mantis shrimp pack the strongest punch of any creature in the animal kingdom. Their club-like appendages accelerate faster than a bullet out of a gun, and just one strike can knock the arm off a crab or break through a snail shell.
Let's see a video of it. Can we show one? Here, right there. It's up top. You got one. I think the one below that.
You never seen one of these, Cash?
No. But the box jellyfish are bad. They're very small, and they'll kill you. You'll die real quick. They're very, very dangerous. And down in the Caribbean, they got them. They're not as bad, but you get a bad bite. You really... So is this the shrimp right here?
Creepy. He looks like Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
You ever watch SpongeBob with Ava?
Yeah. I want to see the punch, but they're not going to show it.
That's a really beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
That's less creepy than the feet sharks.
Yeah.
Less creepy looking.
Yeah.
So he's shuffling with some rocks right now. All right, you gonna punch or not?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty quick.
Hey, he's pretty big too, actually.
Well, if he can punch hard, he's got him.
That's a big. Look at the size of that thing. That's big. I can see it. It's got a lot of. He's got a lot of weight behind him if he punches.
It's like an armored
Yeah.
worm.
I've never seen. What part of the world are they?
Let's see.
I've never seen them around here. So it's a punch. So it's called a punch.
No.
That's pretty interesting. Where's Mantis?
Mantis shrimp.
Yeah, it's not called a punching shrimp. Where is the mantis shrimp?
Yeah,
Temperate
Indian Pacific Oceans. That's
yeah,
what I
tropical
think.
and
Eastern-
subtropical
yeah.
waters in the Indian and Pacific
Yeah,
Oceans
yeah.
between Eastern Africa and Hawaii.
Yeah. If you know that part of the world, Indian and Pacific Ocean, that part of the world has the most diverse wildlife in the waters. It's way better than the Caribbean, and the water is so. We got what is that little pointer there? Why is it there?
What? That's just
Oh, okay.
no one can see
yeah,
that.
yeah, but I can see it. Anyway, so there's such diversity there. It's amazing. So that's pretty neat. So we learned about the wave. We got the punching.
So yeah,
fish.
what went down on the beach this weekend?
And
With
let's
you.
go here. So the last thing is beach injuries. So, but let me I just want to follow up on it, just so I understand that the what do you call it? Those little crustaceans, are they in California? Is that something new? Like, just is it invading
As
because
far
of
as-
climate, the warm water? Anybody know? Like,
I think it's just a seasonal issue right now, but
oh, because I never heard anything about that. I don't know. I didn't know that. I never heard any. I never heard that, or I know not that they bite that bad. So
Yeah, to be completely honest, our research kind of stopped on that
okay,
one article.
that's
with that
okay.
one,
That's
but-
right. So yeah, we're going to talk about. So we just finished up our big season in on the beach in Seaside Heights.
It's another successful Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
quite over for us yet, though.
Yeah, we got another. We got another. We got another month, but it's we're done by the end of September. But we had a great season. It was really not that bad ocean. We had the June swell. For people who know our area, we had a June swell, and then we really didn't have any hurricanes that affected our area. Maybe we'll get something next week. But it was a lot of south wind, and the water was very cold. But despite that, we had record crowds on the beach for quite a long time. But this weekend, it was pretty non-eventful. But we had a couple things that happened on the beach, and I want to talk about one. And I think it's really important to understand because you're gonna, if you're a lifeguard on the beach, and especially any beach for that matter, you're going to have medical issues, and a lot of times there are injuries like somebody twist their ankle or get fall down, and heat exhaustion. We see that a lot. They get dehydrated, hypotensive, but also people will have cardiac events, and not because they drown, just that they're on the beach. And a lot of people think, a heart attack is, they pass out, they stop breathing, you start CPR, but not everybody's like that. There's a thing called a STEMI, and I'm a physician, and every year I train and I get certified in advanced cardiac life support. So what a STEMI is, let's talk about a STEMI. So a STEMI is can you put that
Are
back?
you going to read this?
Yeah,
or you just wanna
no, leave that.
go off the dome. you
No,
know?
no. Well, STEMI is ST elevation myocardial infarction, and it's a type of heart attack that mainly affects your heart's lower chamber. They're named for how they change the appearance of the heart's electrical activity on a certain type of diagnostic test. So what happens? So you start to get electric abnormality, and it's called the ST elevation. ST is a normal wave, and it gets elevated and elongated.
So if people were visualizing this like the ba-bum, ba-bum, like lines
Right,
that they
right.
see, it would be different than the normal shape.
Think about it. If the electric pattern changes on an EKG, your heart's not pumping normally, so the pump starts to pump ineffectively, and when it does that, you start to get symptoms because you're not getting the right kind of blood going out. You get nauseous. You could throw up. You could pass out. You could get chest pain. Is there some of they go through some of the symptoms? The way you diagnose it is you do an EKG and you also do cardiac enzymes. But can you go with symptoms of this? This is important for us to know because you're going to see this on the beach and you could get confused and really, here it is. So shortness of breath, fatigue. Let me stop here. This is very important. Shortness of breath. This individual has shortness of breath. Okay. Fatigue. That's what he's saying. At the third time, and I'll tell you, third time he went down, he said, I'm really tired. I feel tired. Dizziness and lightheaded. Yes. Cold sweat, yes. Nausea and vomiting. That was what he had. Now, sometimes it's chest discomfort, pain or pressure often is the first and most obvious symptom of a STEMI. And it describes heaviness, aching, tightness, throbbing, and constriction. Sometimes they don't have a lot of chest pain or none. You know, they could be a diabetic, with a neuropathy, but I could tell you, don't always, if you got somebody who's shortness of breath, fatigue, dizziness, throwing up, and losing consciousness, you got to start thinking about this. So let's talk about what happened on the beach, and it's a great learning tool. You could add it after, you know. So for people who, so it's called the STEMI. So I'm on the beach actually dealing with some of the lifeguards. I was doing lunches or whatever, and out of the corner of my eye, it just so happened, and we all noticed it just happened to be there, and this guy just face plants. He just goes right down. I'd say about 10 feet away from me, and he just went right down, and he's square on his face. His arms are at the side, and he's not moving. He's just down. So, and I could see people like running, come over to tell me what's going on, but I saw it already. So I ran over there, and I flipped him over, and his eyes were in the back of his head. He was conscious, and what I remember is his family came over, and we started talking, and he had no chest pain. It was a language. He didn't speak English, and so I
think that was one of the biggest issues of the whole situation. Is just like having to talk through.
Yes.
His interpreter.
Yes, that's a big problem, and we got, in New Jersey, we have 110 different languages being spoken. So good luck. You could say, well, why don't you learn Spanish? There's a lot of Spanish. There's Hindu. There's. I mean, it goes on Russian. we got every.
I think Spanish will get you the farthest in the state, though.
Probably, yeah. So that's why I'd like to have our phone down there. You could do a translation, but the problem is the guy was out of. Isn't
that incredible? Not to go too far into a sidebar, but when you, let's say, even when you were in grad school, the type of technology, you can speak into your phone.
Even 10 years ago,
when you were younger, the idea that you can speak into a phone and then automatically it will speak out in another language.
I tell you, there's a Star Trek, initial Star Trek, movie, film, shows, and there's one where an alien.
OG or Next Generation?
No,
Kachmar?
Regular Star Trek, the initial one. But there's a
Patrick Stewart.
No,
that's
Captain Kirk.
What's his name? Shatner,
right?
Yeah.
So there's one. Talk about what we're talking about. There's one show where somebody from the future comes in and they're trying to stop a space rocket that's going to be shot off, and they're going to save the world. And what he does is he actually dictates, and then as he talks, the machine prints out the writing of what he said, right? We take that for granted. Back then, that was like, oh my God. She looked at that, and the girl who was watching it thought that was so incredible. I do it every day. I have a dictation service, on my computer. So
yeah, I can tell all your texts are speech to text.
Right. It's pretty much, but I do that all day long. All my dictation, I dictate, and it prints it right in front of me while I'm dictating it.
So that's how you take your notes.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
And how long have you been doing that?
Oh, years. I actually have. There's actually, I do multiple. I have pre-made notes that I have all done, and I plug and put them in. But also then I augment that with the dictation. But my point, you could do it on your phone. You could text.
I do it all the time.
But that technology back in the day, back in the 70s, it was like, what? No, that was spaceship. Nobody even thought that could be possible. And you got to remember, you use typewriters. And so that's called Dragon. The one company we use is called Dragon.
That was the original. I remember seeing an infomercial for that when I was in sophomore year of high school. I was like, this is the coolest shit ever.
So let's go back to the guys down, and I get them up, and family's there, and I'm thinking, they were telling me that he only ate once that day. So I'm thinking, just like all of us, we've seen this before. Okay, and we asked how old he was. He's 62, no medical problems supposedly. And I figured, okay, he didn't eat all day. It wasn't super hot, so I wasn't thinking heat exhaustion, because usually you don't see that. I mean, listen, I've been here for 30 years. When you get that, it's usually the hot days, muggy. So it didn't look like that. And
I will say the individual was very obstinate to any care, like water, an umbrella. He just wanted none of it.
He was doing a religious fast.
Yeah.
So that's another whole thing. There's another whole thing. Your social aspect comes in. But my thought at that point, my mind is that, okay, he needs a little food, he needs a little water, and he'll be fine. And the family and I, I said, okay, that's fine. And so they said, we're going to put him on the chair. So it was a chair. They had the chair about 15 feet away. So I said, okay, bring him over the chair. And then, because we got to keep on going. We got the beach to work with. And he walks over to the chair, and I'm watching him. And he actually didn't even sit down. He collapsed into the chair. And then he keels over. He's in the chair, and he's throwing up. I can see him throwing up, and he's just like dangling. The only thing that's holding him up is his belly. He's like, he just didn't plant again. So that's it. I'm like, that's it. I go over there. I get him out of the chair. I put him down. I open up his airway. And he's conscious, and he's breathing. I'm feeling his pulse. He's got a pulse. And I said, that's it. We need to get what's in our area. It's called Triborough. We call it's the ambulance. You guys all know.
Did you get the AED?
Yeah. At that point, I said, I sent Sean. I said, get the AED, get the oxygen. I have a whole setup up in the office, my private stock. I got collars. I got so I got it all my stuff. So I know where everything is, and I really like it. And I said, get that. And then I got send a mule down for a wheelchair. I don't know if we were going to walk him out or a backboard. So he's now in the chair. Paramedics, the ENT comes, and then the guy comes around, right? He comes around, and I'm like, listen, I think he should go to the hospital. The family's refusing. They're like, no, he's okay. And, and the EMTs didn't get there yet. So this is just the Triborough. And they're like, listen, going back and forth. So the son goes, why don't we just let him sleep it off on the beach? Now, I'm thinking at this point, and I'm going through my mind, it's not heat exhaustion. He's not a diabetic. So I don't think he's low on sugar. He could be. But I'm starting to think STEMI. Why? Well, first of all, I'm trained to think that. I'm advanced cardiac life support. And when you see somebody who's nauseous, who's passing out, you could have seizures, but usually it's seizure, you go out, and then you wake up and you're
kind of through it.
Right. This was twice already.
Yeah.
62 years old. I just I said until
not fit.
And here's the thing too. If you have a STEMI, there's a protocol. You'd like to get that person in the hospital, in the cath lab, where they get a catheterization in their heart, because this is a blockage of the artery, within 90 minutes. The time is crucial if you really want to make a difference, because if you wait too long and there's a lot of damage to the heart, now you got permanent damage, and it's just a pain in the ass. So you need to give them more blood thinners. So okay, so the paramedics like, well, it's up to you guys, and they're like, well, we're going to let him sleep it off. And I said, no. So this is where, were you there, Sean? I said, listen, if you're not going with the paramedics to the hospital, you ain't staying on our beach. I said, you got to take him off here. I don't think he should be out here in the sun. He's, my opinion is, he's got to get out of here.
Did the paramedics agree with your assessment?
They were trying to accommodate the family, because here's the thing: it's the family and the patient. If they don't want treatment, unless unless you're unconscious, you can't force somebody. You can't.
Yeah.
So he begrudgingly says yes, they'll leave the beach.
So he says, and I just, as a doctor on the beach, I'm like, listen, I don't think this environment's good for you. And I'm still concerned about something. I said, listen, you got to get him out of here. I'm recommending you take him to the hospital, but that's, that, and they're like, oh, yeah. And everybody was, we were looking at each other, us and Triborough, and like, well, can't force the guy to do it. And the guy's like, so I said, we had the wheelchair, and I said, let us wheel you off the beach, okay? No, I'm gonna, now he's getting better.
He looks pretty okay at this point.
Right. So he walks up to the wheelchair, down, and I mean down.
Yeah, right. Again, face into the sand.
And eyes in the back of his head. Now he's unconscious. And at that point, I was like, that's it. He's going. I said, get the paramedics here. So
does the family still have a choice in a
No,
situation
at this point,
like
they're
that?
like, we want him to go to the hospital.
But does the family still have a choice?
Well, he was unconscious. At that point, I want the paramedics. He's unconscious.
Yeah, but can the family refuse the paramedics at that point? Is there a certain point
No,
where
no.
a medical professional like you can step in and say, no, he has to go to the hospital?
Well, listen, if somebody is not breathing, unless they have a directive, non-resuscitate, and there's a piece of paper, that's a good question. But we're going to do CPR. I mean, if you got a wound, somebody, a umbrella hit you and hit in the neck, and you're gushing blood, and somebody says, oh, I don't want to be treated.
You don't need my permission.
I don't know. I mean,
It's not likely I'm going to get permission.
I mean, I don't. Here's the thing.
Yeah, no.
And it makes a good point. My opinion at that point, they didn't realize or understand the significance of what was going on with this gentleman. If I think, if we said, okay, at this point it's a STEMI, and he's got 60 minutes to get to the hospital, and he could code any minute, I think they would be very amenable to getting him out of there. The third time he went down, the son-in-law said, I want him to go.
He was never really responsive after the third time, too.
No, he was done. So then the paramedics came and they did an EKG. And it wasn't a 12 lead, but they did a pretty good one. They put it on the legs and everything. And it was, ST elevation. So that was it. That, as far as they're concerned, it's a STEMI.
So you were spot on.
Yeah. But it's not that, trust me, it's not that tough. I mean, if you work in ER, I mean, you train, you see it all the time. It's not that, it's the most common thing anyway. And so they treated him. I think they might have given him aspirin or whatever, and they get him out of there. I talked to the ER doc later on, and he had elevated ST waves. He had cardiac enzymes elevated. They were ruling out a grand mal seizure also. They wanted to get a brain MRI, I think, or a CAT scan, make sure he didn't have a tumor or a mass or something, So they were working him up. But, but that's, my point is that if you have somebody on the beach who's passing out, who's got, vomiting, feel fatigued, and even if they don't have chest pain, they could even be having a stroke too. You really got to get them evaluated. And if we let him just sleep it off on the back of the beach, I don't think he would ever go. He could have died on us there. And then now or if he goes into cardiac arrest. And this, I tell you how where I thought we were. At that point, the third time, I removed. I don't know if I ripped the shirt or I took it off. I opened it up. I was getting ready to put the leads on because he was out, and I was just waiting for.
He was seizing up, like grabbing his son's arm.
I've seen people like that before, and in the hospital, but they're still awake. They're going into this episode, and then they just stop breathing, and they start turning gray on you, and it goes, and that's it. Because what happens is the heart is pumping, and you're getting these ST waves, and so you're getting this elevation, and then you go into what's called tachycardia.
What is an ST wave?
So
ST?
ST is so if you go back to that picture, when you look at when you look at an EKG, it's right here. There's a Q wave, there's a T wave, right? So that's normal. We break up a EKG into segments. Okay, so there's a Q wave segment, and what happens is there's a certain part of that wave that starts to look abnormal, and that's the early signs of an ischemic heart where the heart's not pumping correctly. And so you go into what's called VTAC, ventricular tachycardia, which is a really fast heartbeat, and then you go into AFib, which is ventricular fibrillation. So the muscle is just acting like a bunch of worms. It's just and you got no blood going.
Bad electricity. And
so what happens is, so it's not pumping correctly. So your pump stops. You don't get blood to the brain. The most important thing is the heart's not getting blood. And so, but when you don't get blood going to the brain, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, you're dead.
Is it possible for your heart to cramp?
Well, that's really what's happening here. I mean, it's electrical.
Through say like dehydration. Say you're so dehydrated, could you get to a point where your heart cramps? And also, would that be painful?
Yeah. You got. There's a lot of hard things. A lot of people have cardiomyalgias. Their muscles weak. They get. They have valve problems. There's parts where they said the vessels just close up. But this is an ischemic heart. Most likely, these people have blocked arteries, and they need to get into the cath lab and get it stented. But I think my whole conversation here is that when you have somebody on the beach, is this going to happen to a 20, 30-year-old? No, most likely not. It could be 40s. I mean, I'm seeing more and more heart attacks or these STEMIs in people who smoke pot like 3-4 times a day, and they hit their 30s, late 30s, early 40s. And usually they have a lot of pain, or they feel like they got indigestion. They don't feel good. I mean, there's a lot of different symptoms. The old thing is, left arm pain, feels like an elephant's on your chest. Those are the most common things. But I've seen them where...
Did you just say pot causes heart attacks?
what we're seeing, I'm not saying pot. Here's the thing: when you smoke marijuana, you got the same carcinogens as if you smoke a cigarette. And what the literature is starting to show is that these people who are doing chronic smoking of pot 3-4 times a day for years and years and years, it appears, again, this is it appears. I don't think there's I haven't seen the literature yet to really substantiate it, but I'm watching it. Is that you've got an increased rate of heart disease and heart STEMIs and blockage of your arteries.
Now, is there any like specification whether these people are using marijuana with other things that might cause heart issues, like tobacco, like smoking in a blunt or
it's a good question.
Spliff?
Yeah, it's a good question. Here's the thing.
Like Snoop Dogg smokes like 80 blunts a day.
Right. And and maybe he's had stents put in his heart. We don't know.
Yeah.
See the picture
He'd
above
be
you.
Someone who's rich enough to hide it.
See the picture above you. See that picture above you? Let me
More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Yeah, that's from 1946, and at that time they didn't think it caused cancer. Not only does
are we or were they just paying the doctors to say that?
A bit of
no. Back in those days, did they know it caused problems? Probably not. But I mean, my point is, we know now that it causes cancer. 46.
What even back then? What doctor would have been like, no, this is definitely good for you? Inhale, like lighting and inhaling.
No, a lot of them smoked. Everybody smoked. Nobody thought it was that bad.
It made you feel good.
No. Yeah, a lot of people. Just like marijuana. How many years ago it was it's safe and everything. Now, back in the day, cigarettes were. If you look at the old movies, everybody smokes. They used to hand them out. Nobody really thought that they were that dangerous. Really, they didn't. I'm just telling you what it is. Now,
it was like
there was battles.
Was huge in the bars, even up until like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. You got to remember.
Then they started coming out with the Juuls, but like people, every bar you went to, people are everywhere smoking cigarettes as recently as like 2 years ago. So they still do, but not as much anymore.
Cigarettes, where it all started in the United States, in the colonies. Tobacco was the Indians grew it, and tobacco was a big product. It went to Europe, and that was a drug of choice back in the day. And it
was also a bit of a status symbol.
Yeah, and people would sniff it, but it was a rush. You get a high from it. You know?
I was listening to the podcast, the Pirate History podcast. Yeah, and he was talking about that. Just the intersection of piracy and the tobacco trade. But he was saying like I don't know exactly what time period it was, but when it first started making its way from the Americas back over to Europe, it was like, if you're having a house party and you don't have like a bowl of tobacco for people to fill their pipes with, you're not doing it right. You're not being a good host. And remember, it was like that.
Right. Remember the South, Carolina.
Same thing with tea.
Yeah, but tobacco and cotton were big. It made it was a big part of this country. But getting back to the when you get these people with symptoms, what I tell people, what I used to think is that the average age of a heart attack was in the 50s, and it was males. When I was doing my training back in the 80s and 90s, very, very few females would have a heart attack. It was unheard of. It's like, that's why if you see a woman who had symptoms that you thought were a heart attack, you'd be like, no way. Now it's 50-50. The other thing that really brought on heart disease, because you didn't have a lot of heart disease back in the day, was meat, eating a lot of meat. And if you look at Japan, right? Before World War II, Japan had almost hardly any heart disease. And they didn't eat a lot of meat. They didn't. Maybe fish, but rice. Well, after World War II, what happened in Japan? They became Americanized. And what does that mean? Westernized.
Someone's got to tell the Liver King he's gonna get a heart attack.
Yeah. So bang, no doubt about it that different things cause it.
Isn't that really difficult data to collect though?
No.
Well, if you ask me, how many times did you smoke pot over the last 10 years? I'm not going to be able to give you a real answer.
But there are people.
Same thing. It's like, how many times a day did you eat meat for the past 10 years?
Yeah,
I don't know. I've been on like 6 different diets.
Yeah.
I've
I went
vegetarian for a month.
But you could look at like how much beef is sold in Japan before the war, and how many heart attacks and heart disease.
That Wagyu beef.
Have
you ever had Wagyu?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Good.
But getting back to with females, I can tell you right now, there was nobody. You didn't see it in the ERs. Why all of a sudden now? Not all of a sudden, but why over the years you got more and more women coming in with heart attacks.
Because they're all smoking pot.
No, I don't
Stress.
think it was the pot. I think it was stress.
Yeah,
Well,
they have
more
more
stress.
more responsibilities now than ever.
Sean makes
Stress,
a good point. Like,
big
how
time
much of
stress.
this can be associated with just like the way people are choosing to live their lives now, in terms of we're eating a lot more junk, we're sitting around a lot more, like a larger majority of people.
Definitely.
You know, like there are a lot. Yes, a lot more women are having heart attacks now, but there are a lot more overweight women now.
Yeah, but my point is that things change, and my whole thought here was that, you know, as a lifeguard, and you know, if you go down and there's a 30-year-old patient who's got maybe chest pain, or they're throwing up, or they're you know, passed out, you know, you're like, no way, it's not a heart attack. Well, yeah, a way it could be. You know, we're seeing it younger and younger. We're definitely, I just had one patient, he's 40, maybe, I don't know, 41, 42, heavy duty pot smoker for years. But he doesn't smoke cigarettes. And, you know, and he's on his, you know, I don't know how many stents he had. You know, he's on the second time. He had one heart attack.
Really?
And then, you know, now, and it was all, you know, STEMIs. And thank God he's not dead. So I just want to let you know that, like I said, on this situation, if I let the guy go and just sleep it off, he probably would, you know, he might not have made it. And so I think you have to have a high alert. I think everybody who is working on as a lifeguard, especially the paramedics or EMTs, they'll know about this. They're trained. When you do advanced cardiac life support, so we run a code, and you know, when you do the training, you got to know how to, you know, look at an EKG, interpret what it is, if it's AFib or, you know, a STEMI, and you got to know how to handle it and what kind of medications and how to treat it. And so you learn that, and it could be, and there's other arrhythmias. Now, the one that I did on the boardwalk, what was that, 3-4 years ago, where I gave her 3 shocks, and she lived. She probably had some kind of arrhythmia. Now, was it this? Could have been a STEMI. It could have been something else, you know. And but you hope that these people have a shockable arrhythmia. But you always got to be cautious about that. And let's talk about one more. So we had one other, Sean, and
Are you talking about this week?
yeah, was this the one that you dealt with? Who? So I get a call that there's somebody with calf pain. They injured their calf. That's what I heard.
Hamstring.
Then it became a hamstring. That's what I heard. Initially I heard calf, and then I heard hamstring. Were you down there with that?
I was there late. I drove the mule over to help him.
Okay. So explain, when you got there, say what was the deal? What, he couldn't walk? Like, what was?
Yeah, he.
Don't say what happened to him. Just that, you know, what.
Yeah, I'm trying. He was complaining about a leg injury.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there was a bit of a communication gap because he couldn't get up, so he was having the child with him go up to the lifeguards and like try to explain the situation, and they would try to explain what to say to the kid back. There was a bit of game of telephone going on.
But he spoke English.
Yeah, but it was just
right.
speaking to a child.
So he couldn't get up. He was laying on the ground pretty much in the water. Okay.
He was complaining about hamstring pain.
Right. So I don't go down for this one, and because I was just dealing with some other stuff, and I saw there was cops down there and the lifeguards. So I mean, and it's, you know, I hear hamstring. Maybe he pulled the hamstring. I don't know what the guy looks like. So that's the end of it. Later on, they bring him up in the beach wheelchair, and he's up on the boardwalk. And again, the Triborough's there, you know, the ambulance people and the cops. And I just happened to go out there because I was going to get a cup of coffee, and there's, you know, a place there that we get coffee. And they were
Candy or Blue Cup?
Blue Cup. And they were right there. They were right there. And I saw the ENT, not the ENT, the Triborough, and I said I wanted to tell about the other patient because, you know, I found out, you know, what was going on. And I went there, and so as I was there, they were talking to him, and he can't walk, he can't put any weight on it, and it was really his hip area, and he was probably in his obese,
50s, 60s.
He was in his 60s, you know, late 50s, early 60s, and I could tell you, until proven otherwise, if somebody can't stand and walk like that, and it's a fractured hip. So I think what happened is he fell down, you know, and broke his hip. You always got
a short break action.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? He could have fell down. He could have tripped over his own feet, for all I know. But my point is that when you have somebody, when you say hamstring, you know, it's one thing if you're, you know, running for a marathon or working out, and you know, usually the hamstring is up in your groin. It hurts really bad. But this guy wasn't doing any activity that's going to pull a hamstring. The only thing he's gonna, he's just not. I mean, the guy had a belly, and he was, a nice guy, but when you see something like that, you could play around, and the reason I'm bringing this up is that there was discussion. He really didn't want to go to the hospital. He just thought maybe it was a hamstring pull, and his wife doesn't drive, but he drove, but he tried to walk, he couldn't, and he's sitting in a wheelchair. He's somewhat comfortable, but now he's got this dilemma, and and again, we're back to the same old thing. The patient has the right to do whatever they want to do, but if he can't drive, how's he going to get home unless he hires an Uber? And but they're asking us, and we can't. I don't have an X-ray machine. You can't make a diagnosis. What you need at that point is an X-ray. I don't care. You could be Joe Trauma Center. Maybe you can move the hip around and everything, but the guy can't walk and he has pain. I think it's a good idea.
Is it possible that it was a dislocation?
You usually don't dislocate a hip. You dislocate a shoulder. I mean, no, it's a fracture. I mean,
what kind of?
It's the odds
What kind
are
of trauma would you have to experience to dislocate your hip?
probably like a huge car accident. I don't think you're going to dislocate a hip.
Would it
it's
would it
break.
shatter
It's going to break.
first?
Yeah, you're not going to. I mean, you dislocate your hip, your leg is gone. I mean, it's more the most
You're
common
also
thing.
dislocating all the muscles.
Yeah,
and
there's
so
the
many
skin
strong
and
muscles.
tendons.
No. The thing is, every day people fall down. The minor injuries, they fall. Like my buddy, he was taking his grandmother down to Florida, and I remember this. She walks outside, right, and it's kind of ice on the ground. She's standing next to the car. He had to go run back in the house and get something, right? As soon as he came back. She just pivoted a little bit, slipped on the ice, broke her hip. That's all it took. Done. And they weren't going to Florida after that. So my point is that you have to think. So if it's a broken hip, here's the other thing. That ain't. You need to have that. You got to go to the hospital. You got to have surgery. I mean, you're not recovering from that.
They get you up and walking pretty quickly though when they replace your hip, like the day up.
Well, they don't. A lot of times they pin it or whatever. It's pretty straightforward surgery, but anyway, I don't think that was a hamstring. That's my point. And but again, it was like delay. The guy's like, I mean, I felt bad for the guy, but it's like, what are you going to do? So we get a lot of that. I think yesterday, the other end, we had a bunch of people. We had a little bit of a shore break, and some people,
leg injury.
all up and down the beach when you have that, and we tell people be careful, But anyway, I think the STEMI is a big thing. Even if you're anywhere, if you're at a party or a family member, Thanksgiving, and somebody starts throwing up, somebody starts, if they pass out, if people lose consciousness, that's what I want to make. That's a big red flag. It's one thing you're throwing up, if you got chest pain, if you feel like somebody's standing on your chest or arm pain, you got to deal with that. But definitely if somebody loses consciousness, there's something going on. And, and especially 3 times. And like you said, I don't think he regained consciousness the third time.
He was just strapped in and not responding.
Yeah, he was, we put him in and so what we did is we got him on the backboard. And when the paramedics came, they knew, because as soon as they did the EKG, he looked at the paper. He's like, let's go. And one of the things you can't do this, but one of the things that really works real well is aspirin, under the tongue, like an 81 milligram aspirin, and that's what the paramedics will do, as long as they don't think they're having a stroke, because you don't want them to bleed out. And
does that like act as a blood thinner?
Yeah, is that anti-inflammatory? It's a blood thinner.
It's an I guess the best way to say is it thins the blood. So if there's a clot, the blood can move through.
Gotcha.
And
I try not to take any of that stuff. Like
well,
Advil, Tylenol.
I tell you how good the aspirin works. When I used to do a lot of vein surgery, and so we put a catheter in the vein. So I would have a monitor, ultrasound, and I put the catheter in, a little needle, and we put this catheter up and we bring it right up to your groin. And then we put a laser catheter in there, and then we numb it all up, and we put the laser on, and we pull it out slowly, and it zips, it burns the vein and closes. But every once in a while, I mean, over the years, I've had it where you have it in there, and you start to see clots being formed. And we'll give a patient aspirin right on the table, because they're awake, and it's amazing. Instantly. It's pretty amazing stuff. So when somebody has a clot, we'll give them. There's clot medicine that you could give them that reduces. It's TPA, and it just you could actually infuse it. So you put a catheter in there, and TPA kind of like just dissolves clots. So he's put continuously in it. You could cause a really bad bleed. But anyway, we're getting advanced talking here. So that was the deal. So we pretty good. Is there anything else? Any other ones, Sean, that we had on the beach? Pretty much that's it, right?
Yeah, I think it was the only injuries of the weekend. It was pretty easy. Are you ready for your quiz, Kachmar? Your catch.
All right, let's
quiz?
give the quiz.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Do you look forward to this yet? Are you excited about
Yeah,
this?
that's all right. It's not. You don't have this showing up on the.
I know.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
So go ahead.
All right.
Who's going to ask it? You, Sean?
I made a PowerPoint this time.
Good. Oh wow.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm tired though. I worked my ass off, so I'm sorry, guys.
We got
All
this.
right.
And I got tomorrow. I got all day. I got Thursday, and I got surgery Friday. So I'm on. And I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday on the beach. So I'm kind of I got to keep on going.
Keep on keeping
And,
on.
Yeah, keep on keeping on.
All right. You
Hit 'em
ready?
with it.
Go ahead.
This Greek god of the sea and king of the sea gods. Oh, God. I read that question completely wrong. This is the Greek god of the sea and king of the sea gods. Also, god of flood, drought, earthquakes, and horses. Bonus point if you can name his Roman equivalent.
Well, it's King Neptune.
No.
It's not King Neptune.
Roman.
King Roman.
No, Roman equivalent.
The Roman equivalent
Is
is Neptune.
Neptune.
Correct.
Okay.
But what's the Greek one?
Hang on. Let me get Roman, Greek, not Atlantis.
Brother of Zeus.
Yeah, it'll come to me. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
It's a famous movie where a ship named after it sinks. Named after him sinks.
Not the Titanic. No.
Titanic.
No, I kidding. Let me see. People are probably like, what? Let me see. It's Greek. What's a Greek name? And
Hades, Zeus, and
it's not Olympus.
no.
And so I said, I don't know. Let's not keep the people waiting. What is it?
Poseidon.
Poseidon events, right?
You
The
knew
ship.
that, Cash.
Yeah, the Poseidon.
Poseidon is most recognizable for his distinct look.
Right.
He's often portrayed as an older man with a long gray hair and
Right.
beard,
As most gods seem to be.
as most gods seem to be.
Oh, is it-
The trident he carries, also very
Right.
recognizable.
Why does Poseidon have to be a guy, Tyler?
That's
That's
all
just the way it
you
is,
know.
man.
He's
Yeah,
married. I didn't think to write down his wife's name. I should have. He's been depicted in countless movies and television shows and popular characters such as Aquaman, King Triton, who actually I learned after writing that question is actually Triton is Poseidon's son.
Right, and here's the thing.
And Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty's arch nemesis, Mr. Nimbus. And here's a nice picture of him for you, Catch.
Oh my God,
Mr.
Nimbus.
That's not even like that's gross. Get that out of there. That's like so. Listen, the
What do you think about Mr. Nimbus?
oh God, so he's I can tell you what I think. I think he's gonna get monkeypox.
He's gonna get monkeypox.
So he's monkeypox. Yeah. So here's the thing: if you look at all of, for the boats for sailing, when you go across the equator, right, for the first time, you get sworn in as a get rid of that. I can't get that thing. You get sworn in as a what do you call it? Well, there's a whole ritual, and it's King Neptune. You salute King Neptune. And if you look at the Pirates of the Caribbean, it was King Neptune. So I don't know where the Poseidon fits in. Are they the same character or
It's pretty much.
I think the
Right.
Romans just like copy and pasted for the most part.
right?
Yeah.
So they're both the same. Then.
They're the same guy.
Right. So that's why I'm not. I wouldn't equate Poseidon. It's more Neptune, and from the sailing community, it's King Neptune. So and I think the Pirates of the Caribbean, I don't think they say anything about Poseidon. They say King Neptune. Right.
We talk about a sea god, but I'm gonna wait until we get to it to tell
All right,
you the
let's
one
see-
that we always talk about.
Let's see the next one.
All right, we'll give you 1 out of 2 for that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
All
Hey,
right,
we got the
this
bonus points.
mythical sea beast is known for.
Get this picture out of here.
I can't. I
why?
can't get rid of the picture
It's
until the next
frozen.
slide.
Oh, okay.
It's frozen.
Okay.
This
Go ahead.
Cool.
Cool. This mythical sea beast is known for the stories of it terrorizing sailors and using its tentacles to reach up from the depths and crush the hulls of ships, dragging them to the bottom and taking the souls of everyone inside. It is said to have lived off the coast of Norway. What is its name and what animal is it based off of?
Well, it's a giant squid.
Yes.
So I know that. And what's the name of it?
There's a rum brand.
Or
named
no, it's
after
an octopus. That's not that's an octopus. That's a big octopus.
To each his own.
What is that big octopus's name? I'll give you half a point because you said squid first, but it is octopus.
It's octopus, yeah. But there is giant squids, though.
There is a little debate about that, but it's mostly, from what I can gather,
It's a mythological creature.
octopus.
Again,
yes.
that's again from Pirates of the Caribbean. They had a giant octopus.
And what was its name? Release the
Medusa.
Medusa.
Was it? No.
No.
I don't know what it is.
Hit him with it.
the Kraken.
Ah, the Kraken. Oh, that's what the that's where they get that terminology from. Release the
Kraken. Here's another another pick of it.
Oh, that's a nasty
Okay,
one.
so according to 13th century Norse legend, hero Orvar Otter and his son came into contact with two threatening creatures from the deep. One of these encounters is later described in detail by Konungs Skugsa, a Norwegian educational text written in the same century. The Kraken comes from the Norwegian word kraka, which is probably related to the German krak,
Dramatic.
which means octopus.
Yeah.
Germanic isn't the same as German. That's why I didn't say it like that.
So what's the question?
So that's the answer.
Oh, that's the answer. Well, it's there has been giant squid, and they actually find giant squid all over the place. They float up. And
They
stuff.
were kind of mythical up until like a decade ago.
Well, they find, you know how they knew they would get these whales, right? And like they would hunt the whales and for oil, and they would see that the whales had these round scars, and they started thinking, well, it was an octopus. That's where they had this, but it weren't octopus, giant octopus. They were giant squid that would fight and go after these whales. Think about how big the squid's got to be to take down a whale.
They're massive.
Yeah, they're big. They're big.
Massive.
But if you look at the tentacles here, you would think it could have been a giant octopus. But I don't know how big octopus in real life get. But anyway,
Not as big as the Kraken.
No. So all
Unfortunately not.
Unfortunately not.
right.
Next question. This old English poem, likely written between the 8th and 11th centuries AD, features the Germanic pagan themes of heroism, bravery, and glory. Its hero is said to have slain 9 sea monsters during a competitive swim, which lasted 7 days in the open ocean. What is the name of this poem? And also the namesake of its hero. They're the same thing.
Say it again. Give me one more. Say it once more while I'm thinking.
This old English poem, likely written
English
between
poem.
the 8th and 11th centuries AD, features the Germanic pagan themes of heroism, bravery, and glory. Its hero is said to have slain 9 sea monsters during a competitive swim, which lasted 7 days and nights in the open ocean.
He killed Grendel
He killed Grendel and Grendel's mom,
and Grendel's mom.
No idea.
and then slayed a dragon.
No idea. No, can't tell you on that one.
Beowulf.
No, I wouldn't even.
The poem, thought to have been written by a Christian monk sometime in the time stated above, stands as a wonderful cross-section of the old Germanic traditions in England and its Christianization, which began occurring at roughly the same time.
See, the problem with the reason why I don't know a lot of this, and seriously, I took in college, you could either take Western Civ or U.S., and I took U.S. I mean, I know, but I took U.S. so-
Beowulf's actually really interesting because, like I said,
I would,
it's an epic poem that was passed down as an oral tradition for centuries among these like old Germanic pagan tribes, and it celebrates all these values, like dying in battle and being like the guy. There's a thing in all these stories they call the
Hero's journey.
the heroic boast. It's
Yeah.
part of the hero's journey, and this specific part of the hero's journey is the hero stands up in front of everybody he's meant to save or protect and says, "This is what I've done. Here's what I'm here to do. Here's how I'm going to succeed in doing it." What's interesting about the poem is these values kind of go against a lot of the Christian values, right? But for whatever reason, this Christian monk in around the 7th century felt compelled to record this poem.
Yeah.
Now, when you read the poem, though, it's absolutely riddled with references to a singular Christian God. Now remember, these people were pagans. They were polytheistic.
Right,
Actually, what's interesting is the word pagan was introduced by Roman Catholics to describe these people, and it basically means redneck. That's how they weren't.
Yeah.
It's not a word that actually describes the religion. Now you hear like neo-paganism and paganism to describe these polytheistic belief systems, but in reality, the word pagan originally was derogatory. It meant you're a redneck. Because they all lived out in the countryside. So it's really interesting when you kind of look at the poem and the values that originally it was really like a song.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I could give you a little
that it represents,
right,
and hold it up against the Catholic values, which are almost opposite, or the Christian values, which are almost opposite, and then you see this written version of this epic poem that has all these Christian references within it, and you start to think like, why did this monk write this? Why did he write it in this way? Yeah. My theory, actually, which I argued in my my thesis for my bachelor's, was that during the time that this poem was written, that the Christianization of Europe was happening, what was also a key factor in this scenario is the fact that nobody knew how to write. There was no like organized communication in that sense, right? It was all, in most cases, the priest had the information.
Right.
The priest was able to read and write.
They're the ones who know how to read and write.
So my argument is that there's like a whole bunch of different reasons involving the Christianization of these people that this poem would have been written and shared in this way, including taking a story that all these tribes people were very familiar with and using it to familiarize them with the ideas of Christianity.
Yeah, and I'll make another point because I studied, one of the things I did is I studied comparative religion, so I could give you some, insight here. And you did a lot of studying. The problem, there's not a problem, but you got to remember too, is that you have the Old Testament and New Testament. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they don't say they counteract each other or contradict each other, but, in the Old Testament, God is very, he can be mean. And the New Testament, God's a little bit, nicer. And so, no, yeah.
I know.
And if you look at, you go, I think a lot of times too, during, after, 2,000 years ago, after Christ died, there were still people following the Old Testament, and people who came out of the Old Testament, the Jews who turned into Christians, they still had a lot of the values. In fact, I'm a Christian. We still follow Passover. We follow a lot of the Old Testament. We listen to the Old Testament. We read the Old Testament, and you could kind of get conflicting. I mean, you'll talk about turn the other cheek, but then an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I mean, how do you reconcile that? I mean, the Old Testament is an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So that means you basically cut my eye out. I'm going to cut your eye out. But then Christ says turn the other cheek. Yeah. So there's that, and then like you said, there's language barriers, and unfortunately too, the church over the years, especially the Christian church, the Catholic church, and then the Protestant, they were very corrupt. They did a lot of they for power, and so they wrote their own rules. I mean, you could go into whole crazy stuff about that. But that's an interesting thing. So I couldn't. That's why I had no idea about that poem or anything like that. But I want to give you a little insight like why it's skewed a little bit. What is this here? What is that?
This is just the
poem.
Yeah, it's a
sliver of it. It's long.
Sliver. It's very long.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this kind of theory I just gave you guys. In my research, I researched this for months, and I only found one academic paper that floated like the same idea.
So wait, you think that the monk that wrote Beowulf, was trying to inspire people to do what?
Not quite. So what? He, in my opinion, he wrote it sort of as a tool to aid in the Christianization of England, to take a story that all of these tribes people were very familiar with and use it to introduce them to the ideas of Christianity while also kind of like tongue-in-cheek shitting on their religion. Like there's actually several moments where like he outwardly, because it's so weird because you're reading this thing and you're aware that it's in the voice of this Christian monk, but he doesn't break that fourth wall so often where like you're still kind of reading it in the voice that it was meant to be read in, that like the tribes people would be listening to it in. But every once in a while he like kind of sneak disses paganism. He'll say something like heathens worshiping at the feet of idols, which means like multiple gods. And he has the hero Beowulf during his heroic boast, right? During arguably the most culturally important part of the poem,
The I am Beowulf.
the I am Beowulf, the big moment, the this is how I'm going to save you moment, the celebration of what this culture is. He has the main character saying, I would not be able to accomplish all these amazing feats without the help of God.
Right.
So for me, it's the mixture of the fact that nobody had access to writing. So he had that advantage over a lot of people. He had the advantage that places of worship where people gathered and information was dispersed. In my opinion, and it wasn't just him, right? This is like an unnamed Christian monk. For me, this was a move by the Catholic Church to manipulate information, manipulate a story a little bit to get people on their side.
Right. You got to remember, you had the Greeks. Go against the Catholic Church. You had Martin Luther.
And I keep saying the Catholic Church, but
it's different. You got Christian. You got to remember, back in the day, Christianity was the church. And as far as people going off the rails, off the track, look at Moses. He goes up to the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. He comes down there. They got all their gold together, and they're idolizing a cow or something, a golden cow. I think the point here is that. It's interesting you bring this up, but as far as Christianity, and I don't want to get into a whole political thing here, but if you go back and look, there's always inconsistencies. Different people have different takes on how it was written, and we could spend. There's scholars out there who know way more than I do, and all I know is this: is if you got the two testaments, the Old and New. And if you believe in God and you believe in that, you try to follow the Bible as best you can, and people argue about it all the time. What his motive was and why people write things, I wouldn't look into it too much. Sometimes who knows what pressures he had on him. But I think that it's a very common thing to, if you want to get a point across, you're trying to sell something, that you put it in people's they can understand it.
Here's my thing with this particular poem is that. If he just wanted to share it because he thought it was cool, like why treat it in the way that he did? Why why have the hero referencing his God instead of the hero's own gods?
Who knows?
He's writing from like a first person perspective, like he's that's just how he thinks. So he's writing himself as the hero,
right?
But he's not writing him. He's writing Beowulf as the hero, and he's still including all of these.
If you're writing
all of these other pagan, they call it honor culture. He's still including all those values, but also every once in a while.
Yeah, but George R.R. Martin said that Tyrion Lannister is his favorite Game of Thrones character, and that's because he's one of the most likable characters. Tyrion's the most like him, he said.
So listen, why don't we save this for our religious show that we're going to start soon? We can talk about all things.
The ocean is my religion.
Okay. So is there any more quizzes? So I'm getting ready to pack it in here.
That's it.
The beach is my church, and the ocean is my pastor.
Get
Odin is our god.
No, we have one more.
Okay, he said it was okay. Give me the one more.
The beach is my church. The ocean, my pastor.
All right, go ahead. So give me the one more.
You like that?
I'm fading, so come on. And I want to make sure we make an announcement.
This
we're gonna have a show
literary
Friday.
monster of cosmic origins first appeared in an H.P. Lovecraft story. It is humanoid looking with squid-like tentacles on its face.
H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft.
I have no idea. Give me some more hints.
I don't think you would know it if you don't know.
That's really it.
No, I have no idea.
Cthulhu? Have you heard of Cthulhu? He's like the god of gods, according to H.P. or Lovecraftian.
The Call of Cthulhu was a short story first published by Lovecraft in the pulp magazine Weird Tales in 1928. This was the first story in which Lovecraft expanded on his ideas regarding what he referred to as the Great Old Ones, a group of cosmic deities who once ruled the earth. Most of Lovecraft's works highlighted the insignificance of humanity in the larger cosmic scheme of things. His genre seems to be a version of naturalism on steroids, which is naturalism being the literary movement where themes of man's insignificance in comparison to nature drive its narrative.
Yeah, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God.
Yeah.
That's all.
Who does?
I do. And if you believe in God and you believe you're an image of God, so then your purpose is God put you here. And you don't know exactly what he put you here for, but if you believe that there is an entity of God and there's a hereafter, you do have a purpose. And you do have, and you want to, and supposedly, if you want to think about it, if you really want to get into it, is that, Jesus says to get to the Father, you have to accept me. So there is purpose. If you don't believe in God, and you believe everything is, like you said, Big Bang Theory, it's everything's science, then like the gods, the Romans had the gods,
that in itself is a form of naturalism. It's not necessarily not naturalism isn't necessarily saying like I don't believe in like a higher power. It's more like I believe in the power of like the nature of the universe. I believe that
I think most people's beliefs are similar, more similar than they like to agree. Just the words and the lexicon. Is a difference.
I 100% agree with Sean. My God, right? Like I said, like
just because he's using different words, he still believes that there is a good and bad to everything.
My God is the universe itself. If we're being serious, I worship the ocean, right? But
right.
But when I think about an all-being power, I think about just like the universe being all-knowing itself.
Right. So why? So let me ask you this, and I understand where you come from, but why can't you just take the leap and say there's a power, it's a God.
That's exactly the leap I'm taking, but I'm saying.
Well, why don't you just say then? Why don't you believe in Jesus Christ and follow the whole thing? Why do you get rid of that? Why do you reject that?
Because that's a structure that I don't believe to be necessary to validate my relationship with the universe.
Well, all right. So, what are you going to say, Sean? I don't want to get into,
Yeah, I don't think we should get into it either.
No.
But it's a rigid structure.
No, because it's late. This is not a religious show. This is Lifeguards. Come on. What else?
Yeah, no, I'm.
How many times have you sat on the lifeguard stand and talked religion?
Yeah, but not but not on the lifeguard stand, number one. I don't get heavy duty trying to say I never ever push the fact whether or not it's there or not. I think the Bible's a great book, whether or not you believe in Jesus Christ or not, but it's got some great stories. What were you going to say, Sean? Sean was going to say something.
I was if you want to know why people just don't instantly accept the church is probably because it's so set in ways and.
No, not the church. Now I'm talking about the Bible. I don't deal with the Catholic Church.
So so it's a set of
the book. Yeah, and that's what people don't believe. That's
so loaded to just be making a statement like this.
Yeah, remember you're on tape.
I know.
We're allowed to have our feelings and beliefs. No one's judging here.
But we got and then we'll finish this up. Go ahead.
Some people don't like to be boxed in like that. Let's go with if using that etymology, maintaining those.
Sean's absolutely right. Some people, I mean, there's myself included, don't feel the need for that rigid structure of this is how God works.
Yeah, and I'll use the word there is God in Beowulf, even though it's not a religious text.
Yeah, listen.
There's God in Lord of the Rings.
Listen. There's
Star
multiple.
Wars.
There's multiple. There's morality, and you have the Indians, United States Indians, Buddhists, Hindu. You have the Muslims. You have the Christians. The Jews, Jewish. There's a lot going on out there.
The Tao.
As long as it serves positivity.
Right. So I never, I went to a Catholic school. I studied comparative religion, and I'll leave it at this. You believe what you want to believe, and I don't have any problems, but just remember, where I don't say becomes dangerous, but where there is a conflict that's coming out. You want to talk about politics and. This country was founded, whether or not you think it's a great idea or it was founded. The founding fathers built this on Christian, Jewish Christian beliefs.
Judeo-Christian.
Right. And if you look at our money, it says "In God We Trust." We talk about God bless America. So and maybe it becomes a cliche, but our values, and especially our Constitution. It says all men are created equal, endowed by the Creator with inalienable rights. So if you want to deviate and say there is no creator, then do you have inalienable rights? The Second Amendment, says that you have, or you have the 14th Amendment. The government should not infringe on life, liberty, and pursuit of property. You have to. So getting back this whole religious thing is that this country is based in that, and whether or not you believe it or not, that's fine. The question is, where do you, if you have some entity you want to call it universe, you call it Jesus Christ, you call it Muhammad, Smurf, whatever you want to call it. And but there are people who downright just don't believe in anything. That there is nothing out there, and their morality is, listen, I don't want to kill anybody, I don't want to hurt anybody, and that's not bad either, But getting back to your thing, you don't have to defend it, but where I see the problem is, if you wanted to really get into it, where I push it is that this country is founded on those principles, and I don't think they're obsolete, but there's a big difference between the Catholic Church and the Bible. So,
That'll give you.
And anyway, listen, we got off crazy today. Listen, I want to make a point here. We might be having a guest Friday. And I think we're gonna strictly talk about lifeguarding that day. And
that's boring.
Yeah, no, it's not. This guy is he's a lifeguard. He worked in La Valette, and he works down in Florida. I think he's in Clearwater. And did you do any research on him? Our guest, that's
not yet.
Okay, and so hopefully he'll be in. And he asked to come on the show, and hopefully he'll come on here. And so hopefully we'll have a special show Friday. I don't know if you, maybe early, Sean, if you can make it.
Yeah, I can make it.
That'd be good. Anything else? So
like, subscribe, put on notifications, follow.
Right. And I love those things were tough questions this day, At least I was close to one. And thank you, Sean.
No problem.
And it was a great show. I think that the lifeguarding now, we've got another week or another month and or another 3 weeks and we're done. It was a great season. And we had, I think 4th of July weekend, I was told that the numbers came back. We had about 50,000 people, 40 to 50,000 people.
Sheesh.
So I don't know if that was the 3 days or I don't think it was the 1 day. I think days we had like 15,000, but it was a total. I think they say between 40 and 50,000 people.
But they get those numbers the same way they get like pay-per-view numbers for a.
No, they what they did, I tell you exactly what they did.
This family, there were probably 3 kids.
No,
per
what
family.
they did, I tell you exactly what they do. They took the amount of bands that were sold. They took the families and how many, the average, and they did it and they gave them 2 children each, and then the season. I mean, they're pretty accurate on it. They, is it 100%? But there's big numbers out there. If you just go by the bands, the badges, it was probably 30,000. So it's up there. Anyway, we had a good summer, and hopefully we'll finish up. And everything will be fine. Anything else, Tyler? You want to say?
Like Sean said, subscribe. LG.association on Instagram. Dr. Kachmar at iCloud.com. Lifeguards off duty at gmail.com. Shoot us an email at either one of those addresses. Sean and I are working on getting a blog set up, so look out for that.
Follow.
And yeah, let's get that Instagram to 1,000 followers. We're pretty close.
Yeah, and like I said, Friday we're going to have a special show with a special guest, so try to tune in. We appreciate it. All right, well, thank you very much.
Stay out.
Stay alive.
Stay alive.
Stay alive.
Stay alive.